All right. Oh my gosh.
I did it with you.
Welcome to Not Suitable for Adults. It's a podcast where we just have lots of fun.
I think I'm already getting on your nerves.
You're not on my nerves
And
at
it
all.
is. What time is it?
We're recording early on Sunday morning.
It's 9:30 in the morning, and I'm pretty sure Rich is already annoyed with me.
I am not.
Because I went, all right, with you. And
It was perfect.
And you went,
Right before we started, she said, "Oh, hang on," and she grabbed her Diet Coke and slurped it and hit the microphone arm.
oh, I'm so funny.
You are funny. I thought it was funny. And I'm Rich.
I'm Natalie.
All right. Well, let's kick things off this week, and I'm going to talk about a movie, quote unquote, of a show that Cora actually used to watch quite a bit.
She used to watch it all the time, and I'm surprised that I actually forgot about it until you just mentioned it.
So the show is called Larva Island, and the movie is called The Larva Island Movie. Here's what this show is. This whole thing is there's a guy, and he's trapped on a desert island, and the island is super tiny.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yeah.
Desert island. Does it mean desert is on is like sandy land? Sandy land.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Deserted island is more like it.
You're right. I think of those as interchangeable, but maybe they're not. I'll correct myself.
But I hear that happen all the time. Everybody calls them desert islands.
I think that's the idea. I think the idea is it's a desert island because it's this island that's all by itself and you can't see anything else. It's just that and the ocean. As if the ocean were a desert.
I've just always wondered if desert island and deserted island should be interchangeable or not.
Get at us in the comments. Friends.
Sorry. Keep going.
No, it's fine. So it's this one guy. He's in a. I can't remember actually if it's like a boat or a plane or how he gets out there, but he's on this island. It's very small. In the movie, and I'll talk about sort of the plot of the movie here in a second, but he's in the movie, he's been rescued. Spoilers, he makes it. And I'm doing this all out of order. It's animated. The thing's animated. And so in the movie, he's talking about what it was like on this island, and he describes the island as being able to walk across it in 5 steps, which is not exactly right. It's bigger than that, but it's not much bigger than that. It's like, I would estimate 40 feet.
Yeah. It's
really, 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 really small. But here's some things it does have is a little covering of a cave that he can sleep under for shelter. Mm-hmm. A little outcropping of trees and bushes. Mm-hmm. A volcano.
Yes.
And a little sort of reef area over on one side of the island where the little crab creature that we meet eventually sort of hangs out. Mm-hmm. So, he's on this island and he is looking for food, and he runs across these little bugs, these little larvae. One is red and one is yellow, and he calls them red and yellow, respectively. And so the show is basically this guy trying to fend for himself and get food, and these little bugs kind of getting in his way all the time and snatching his food. We find out in one of the early episodes he's got this little pack of candy that he's that's the only thing he's salvaged.
Yeah, they're like Skittles or something.
Yeah, and so he gets into that one time, and the larvae see it, and then they steal his candy bag. But also it's almost like we're supposed to feel bad for the larva. We're supposed to feel like the tone of the show makes it feels like the guy is the bad guy. Even though he's trying to survive on this island. It's like it's as if they're trying to take his stuff and we're supposed to feel bad for them because he's so much bigger than them.
I mean, it's kind of like a Coyote Roadrunner kind of thing where, I don't know, the person you're rooting for isn't really the person you really want to be rooting for.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
So that's the plot of the show. Other characters come in. There's a third little bug that we meet eventually that I think the red one sort of falls in love with. There's a lot of like fart humor in this show. Mm-hmm. Like pretty much that's the whole thing. That's the whole purpose of the yellow larva is to have a fart joke.
Yeah.
We eventually meet this little seal that looks like a pug that sort of becomes like the dude's pet. And we meet this crab that gets, no joke, people, this is what's in the story. He gets taken over by this alien that comes down. And it's funny because they show in the movie this like asteroid comes down. It looks like it's going to destroy the Earth, but then it's a forced perspective thing. It's super tiny. And it hits this crab in the head. And a little tiny Spider-Man comes out and takes over this crab's body. And the crab turns into like a transformer. Mm-hmm. So we have the man, 3 bugs, a seal that looks like a pug, and a mechanical transforming crab man.
Yes.
Are the inhabitants of this little island with a volcano on it.
And the show is a series of like 10-minute parts.
Yeah.
So they're super short parts. And actually, I kind of got into it when she started watching it. She hasn't watched it in a while. But I wanted to know if this guy gets off the island, because he keeps coming up with ideas to get off the island and then is thwarted or whatever by the larva or by his own, stupidity or something like that. And then eventually he has to leave because the volcano erupts.
Yeah.
The only thing that's on the island erupts and the island is destroyed.
I agree. Further into it, so the first many episodes are unwatchable for me. Mm-hmm. Because there's no good people in it.
Right.
The guy's annoying, the bugs are annoying, but I would say about the time that they introduced the little girl larva that Red falls for, that's kind of like this tribal living out in the jungle sort of, which they're all bugs, so I don't see why they should be so different, but they sort of, and they've never met her before on this island.
Yeah. It's a tiny island.
But they find her, and then it starts getting interesting. And then there's there's sort of a story. The other sort of kooky characters that come in make it kind of interesting. The bugs actually, at least one time, stop the volcano from erupting because the little tribal one has like a ritual that will stop it. Yeah. And then there's something that fails. They aren't able to do the ritual the second time it goes to erupt, and that's when it actually erupts at the end of the series. So,
and then several of you think that's the end of the series because they're not on the island anymore, because the man, it's kind of a love-hate relationship between the man and the creatures of the island, or the larvae. Larvae?
Larvae.
Because he sees them about to perish in the lava, and he grabs them, puts them in his pocket, and they jump on a raft. Then several, not several, but probably maybe 2 10-minute segment episodes are them surviving on the raft before they all kind of get split up and then found in different ways.
Yeah. So the movie is, as I said, he's been found. It's weird because it starts off and the movie begins with this little beetle crawling around on the streets of a city. and like it's a dung beetle, which is weird. Like I feel like dung beetles aren't really a city thing, but it's got this little ball of dung that's trying to push around, and like people keep almost stepping on it, and then it loses the ball for a while, and it gets it back, and then he's about to be stepped on, and then the shoe stops and pulls back, and we look up, and it's the guy, and he's like, "No, I love bugs now." And he just kind of looks at it like, "Oh, okay," and the bug runs away. And it turns out he's on his way to meet this reporter to tell his story because she thinks it would be an interesting story to tell. And so they sit down for a meal, and then from then on, it's basically him talking about. She says, I just can't believe how you survived alone on the island for so long." He says, "Well, I wasn't alone." And she said, "Well, what, there weren't any other people there." He goes, "Well, there were these two bugs." And then we watch like most of that first episode where he sort of meets them. And then it cuts back, and she's like...
The movie's kind of like a large flashback episode?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
It's an hour and a half long. I will be honest with you, I didn't watch the whole thing.
How could you?
I got about 45 minutes in. I was like, I get it.
Yeah.
And there's probably something interesting at the end. Maybe I'll finish it.
I'm surprised you didn't just at least like fast forward to the end to see if there's some sort of resolution that we don't know of.
Yeah. I don't know.
Wow. You really did not care, did you?
I don't like this show very much. It's the thing. It's it's not that I don't recommend the show, because the thing is that the animation is pretty good. It's unique. It's a very unique sort of story, even though it is, like you said, it's kind of a it does some cartoon tropes that we're familiar with. It's not that it's a bad show. It's just that for me, personal preference,
it's much too silly. You think?
It's not even that. It's just that some of the things... Okay, so here are two things for me that it just makes it hard for me to keep watching. One is, listen, I like potty humor as much as anyone does.
Doubt it.
there's way too much fart jokes in this show.
There are many.
In the episode where they meet the little girl larva, they meet her because the red one eats these mushrooms that make him continuously fart.
Yeah.
And like almost perish.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she cures him, the yellow one immediately eats another one of those, and now he is the one farting constantly. Mm-hmm. There's one where they do that again. They intentionally eat those so that the yellow one will have this like super gas power to like rocket away from
on the raft.
Yeah. On the raft.
They use it as like as
a propellant. And that's just too much for me. Like I get it. It's funny, but there's so much of that. And then the other thing is that the yellow or the red one, whenever the red bug is in trouble, he lets out this high pitched like horror movie scream. Mm-hmm. And it's the same scream every time. They basically just hit it on a soundboard.
Yeah.
Which again, like repetition's funny, but that happens in every episode a lot of times. And so there's just things that burn me out really fast about this show. But like I said, I don't want to cast it in a terrible light because it has some redeeming qualities. It's obviously well liked by a lot of people because they made a little movie about it. So...
But the little movie is just the show kind of over.
Yeah. So, and maybe that's a good point. So, like, if it may be that if I had never seen the show and I watched the movie, then I'd be more into it because it's sort of a smaller dose. So maybe if you want to, like, dip your toe into Larva Island, check out the movie. And then if you're like, yeah, we like these characters, go back and watch the show and you'll get the longer version of this man horribly trapped on this little island with these bugs.
Yeah, this is not necessarily a recommendation, is it?
It's not necessarily, but it's also, I want to be clear that it's not it's not terrible. It's just, I mean, I will say this, there's nothing educational about this show. So
right.
Like,
it's one of those that if your kid sees it and they're like, hey, I might want to try that, just know
It's mostly bright colors and funny sounds.
Yeah. It's one of those. It's not terrible to watch as a parent, but also it's not the best thing. It's kind of one of those in the middles for us.
I'll say this too. It has what I find to be one of the funniest reasons for its TV rating. So it's TVY7 for fear, and I always think that that's funny when I see that, because I understand what it means. It means that it's not that there's horror in it. It's not that there's necessarily scary things in it, but there's depictions of people being scared.
Yeah.
But I just think that's the funniest rating. It rated TVY7 for fear.
For fear.
Yeah. So that's Larva Island.
Cool. The movie.
And
the show, basically.
That's a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
Because they're the same thing.
Yes.
So let's switch gears. Natalie, you got something for us.
So today, because, again, question of the day has turned more into like, let me tell you some fun things.
Activity of the day.
Oh, there we go. Okay. We have so much more room for activities. Okay. That one's suitable for adults.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you a few things that surprised me on another BuzzFeed list of actors who voiced Disney characters that you may not realize.
Okay, cool.
So, the first one is Jonathan Groff, who plays the FBI agent Holden Ford in Mindhunter.
Okay.
But you know him as King George in Hamilton.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
He is Kristoff in Frozen.
No way!
Yes, he is. Donny Osmond, you know,
of
Osmonds, is Li Shang's singing voice in Mulan. The guy, I'll make a man out of you.
Okay.
That's Donny Osmond.
Interesting.
We know this, but our listeners may not all know that Matthew Broderick, who is, I mean, I just love him. I love him with all of my heart. Is Simba, is adult Simba in The Lion King.
And who's young Simba?
Again. A man I loved, he wasn't a man. A boy I loved with all my heart at the time, JTT.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Yeah. Scott Winger, or Steve from Full House.
Okay.
Is Aladdin.
Oh, yeah, I knew that.
Okay.
He actually, on Full House, in some of the episodes, worked for, like, Disneyland and portrayed Aladdin at the park. And that was sort of an inside joke.
I never watched a Full House really religiously or anything. I didn't watch it all the way through. I know the people and I know of, like, their character and stuff, but not much other than that. The next one is Christian Bale.
Okay.
Plays Thomas in Pocahontas.
Oh.
Now, I haven't seen Pocahontas in forever, but I thought that was an interesting little thing. Christopher Daniel Barnes, who is Greg Brady in the Brady Bunch movie, is Prince Eric in The Little Mermaid.
Oh. I'm going to do that for all of them. I'm just going to, I've got that pre-recorded.
If you're really, is this interesting to you?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Oprah plays Tiana's mother in The Princess and the Frog.
I think I knew that.
I think also we know Zachary Levi is Flynn Rider from Tangled, as well as Mandy Moore is Rapunzel in Tangled.
I had forgotten that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there it is.
That makes sense.
Rowan Atkinson, or Mr. Bean, is Zazu.
Yes.
Christopher Jackson, who played George Washington in Hamilton, are you remembering?
Yes.
Is Chief Tui, Moana's dad.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, we know Kristen Bell as Anna.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy is Mushu.
Yeah, from Mulan.
Yes. One I didn't realize, Ariel Winter.
Yeah.
From Modern Family
Mm-hmm.
is Sophia in Sophia the First.
Oh.
She voices Sophia.
Okay.
I did not realize that one.
Me neither.
Let's see. And was there another one I was going to do? Oh, and lastly, Ming-Na Wen, who is Agent May in S.H.I.E.L.D., and also she's in The Mandalorian. She is Mulan.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I just thought a few of those were interesting. A few of them I knew. A few of them I was surprised by. So, anyway.
If you didn't know, now you know.
Now you know. The more you know. Now you know that the more you know.
And knowing is half the battle.
Okay.
What do you say we take a little pit stop?
What you say?
What you say? That you
What
only
you
meant
say?
well. Well, of course you did. Let's stop at Promoville.
I'm not going to sing the song this time.
Okay, that's fine.
Do you want to sing the song?
Not really.
Okay.
I'm Lauren.
And I'm Sydney.
And we are
Historically Accurate.
We are long-lost sisters with a common interest in people and events in history.
Join us on Friday evenings starting August 7th with the life story of Walter Mercado.
Every week, we will bring you on a new and exciting journey through the stories of the people and events that shaped the world.
And we're back. So, Natalie, I believe you've got a little review to do.
I do. I went back to our list of shows and movies that have been recommended for us to watch, either for good reasons or
for better or worse.
For bad reasons. This one was again recommended to me by Franchise Players Pod, who recommended Teletubbies the last time around. Anyway, they are at pod_players. And I'm pretty sure Franchise Players Pod has it in for me.
Well, Franchise Players Pod submitted a bunch of ones that were bad ones, I think.
I know. They have it in for me.
Yeah, okay.
Because this time I semi-watched, and reviewed In the Night Garden.
Okay.
And first off, the title is In the Night Garden, ellipses. ... In the Night Garden, ...
Uh-huh.
That's the title of it.
Mysterious.
It is a British live-action preschool children's television series. This might sound a little bit familiar to you. It is aimed at children aged 1 to 6. Cora will never watch this. Ever.
Goodness.
It was produced by Davenport.
Davenport.
Davenport. I don't have his first name. Shoot. And Ann Wood, the team that also co-created Teletubbies. So you can immediately assume what this is like. It's pretty much Teletubbies, but in a different universe.
So let's be clear about, because actually someone brought up something about our review of Teletubbies and how we talked about it being not something that we enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be clear. I think that this was true for Teletubbies, and this is what I said, but I think it's true, is that some of these shows are just not made for the kid we have. And so when we say things like, she's never gonna watch this, it's because it's really made for, like, if it's for ages 1 to 6, that means it's for ages like 1 to 3. And kids up to 6 might enjoy it. But it's because it's a little baby show.
It's a baby show.
Yeah. and those things are hard to watch. And so I'm wondering if this is like that, where it's just like, man, everything is so basic and little and baby talk and that kind of thing.
Right. And also, this is us talking about the shows.
Yeah, the shows and whether we like them for us.
Right. That's the whole premise of the podcast. 2 series were made, 100 episodes in all. So, In the Night Garden is about a magical place that exists between waking and sleeping in a child's imagination.
Oh.
And it is inhabited by some characters that love each other so very, very much. Mainly, the main characters are Iggle Piggle, Upsy Daisy, and Maka Paka.
Maka Paka.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
They created this show to be a part of that age group's bedtime routine.
Okay.
So this is supposed to be a very calming, soothing TV show that aired in the bedtime hour.
So that it might be the last thing they watch before they drift off into little baby sleep.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. It's soothing and relaxing as far as the narration style, and the colors and everything are very bright, vibrant. They're not as like psychedelic as like the Teletubbies is. It's a little more soft. It is shot in a real woodland setting in the UK. It is beautiful.
Okay.
The little set, the place that they shot it is a very lovely place. And it is, again, creatures that are a variety of creatures. So like some CG animation, some live character in costume technology and stuff like that. So the producer Ann Wood said, quote, "We wanted to explore the difference between being asleep and being awake from a child's point of view. The difference between closing your eyes and pretending to be asleep and closing your eyes and sleeping."
Okay.
Now,
In the Night Garden.
ellipses. That is the right thing that I'm saying, right? Ellipses
Yeah.
is that. Okay. When I said
In the
it,
Night Garden, ...
yes, when I said it earlier, you looked at me confused. So I was hoping that maybe I was saying the right thing, but good. It is narrated by Derek Jacobi. Sorry. And he is a pretty, people know him. He's pretty famous for being on stage and in the cinema and everything like that.
People know him. He's kind of a big deal.
Yeah. So the characters mostly speak in short phrases or don't speak at all.
Mm-hmm.
So the character, and each one has their own special song and dance. So it is very, again, Teletubbies-like. Iggle Piggle is...
Iggle Piggle.
is a blue creature that kind of resembles a teddy bear, but he's human-sized. They're all human-sized. He carries a red blanket with him, and he arrives at the beginning of the show and leaves at the end. He arrives in the garden at the beginning and leaves at the end of the garden. He arrives in the garden at the beginning of the show and leaves the garden at the end of the show.
So he is the first thing you see and the last thing you see.
Yes. He does not speak. He has a bell in his left foot, a squeak in his middle, and a rattle in his left hand. So he just communicates by like, squeak, rattle, 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 like that's...
So he's got kind of a little one-man band thing going on.
Yes, he does. Upsy Daisy is a human-sized rag doll. She has a dark skin complexion. She has a chime in her tummy and brightly colored clothes. Now, she actually talks, and what she says is, Upsy Daisy.
No kidding.
Yeah. And sometimes she says, Daisy do.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. And it's for all variety of emotion, will she say, Upsy Daisy and Daisy do. That's what she does. Her skirt will inflate into a tutu when she pulls the rip cord on her waist. So she has like a thing that she pulls and it goes out into a tutu.
Okay.
And then the last one I'm going to talk about is Maka Paka. Yes.
Am I doing a really good impression of Maka Paka?
Yeah, pretty good. He is smaller. He's beige. He's round-bodied. And he is the weirdest looking of them all. Because the other two could be a toy for a kid. Something you sleep with. A rag doll. A blue teddy bear. This guy, he's round. He's beige. And he has 3 rounded protuberances on his head. So like one on each side of his head and one on the top. And those resemble like stones stacked on top of each other.
Okay.
So one large stone, one middle stone, and one small stone.
Little snowman figures.
Is similar to that, but a little flatter.
Okay.
And those are his, like where his ears go and on the top of his head.
Okay.
So it's just, but that's kind of his thing is stones.
Okay.
He likes rocks. He lives in a cave, and he cleans and stacks his stones. He keeps stones, and he sleeps on a stone bed and cuddles a stone when he's sleeping. He says his own name,
Maka Paka,
and the phrase "maka maka moo" when he is happy.
Okay.
So basically, it's similar to the Teletubby style, where Iggle Piggle kind of floats in on his boat into the night garden, and then the title appears. And the narrator, I could not think of the word narrator, begins talking about the
Whatever
things
the
they're
thing
doing.
is. Yeah.
The episodes end with a character receiving a bedtime story, which is generated by the magical gazebo that sits in the middle of the night garden.
Sweet.
So similar to the Teletubbies' big pinwheel windmill thing, they have a magical gazebo.
Do they have a magical Superdome?
No.
Oh.
Was that what they called it?
It was
Was it the
Superdome.
Teletubby Superdome? Tubbadome or something like that.
I thought it was a Superdome.
Maybe it was Superdome.
Because it sounded...
Yeah.
It sounded like Sunday.
Yes, right. And then Iggle Piggle floats away on his boat at the end because he does not want to go to sleep. At the end, it's time to go to sleep. He does not want to go to sleep. So he gets off, he gets into his boat and floats away, but then he ends up kind of falling asleep on his boat.
Okay.
As he's floating
That's
away.
Dangerous.
Yes. Again, producer Ann Wood says, we became very aware of the anxiety surrounding the care of young children, which manifested itself in all kinds of directions. but the one big subject that came up again and again was bedtime. It's the classic time for tension between children who want to stay up and parents who want them to go to bed. So this is a program about calming things down, whereas most children's TV is about getting everything up.
Okay.
So that's one thing that I liked more about this one as I was watching it than Teletubbies. Teletubbies is just so much.
Mm-hmm.
And this one was a little more relaxed.
Okay.
This is really quick, until in 2008, until March, it aired every day at the bedtime hour slot at 6:25 p.m.
Okay.
And then at that point, it was removed from that slot, and it was greatly petitioned by parents to have it put back at that slot, because one petitioner said, quote, "My 4-year-old refused to believe it was bedtime because In the Night Garden hadn't been on and it was daylight outside." So it became such a routine at that slot that some children were not going to bed because they weren't not able to see In the Night Garden when it was moved slots.
So, okay. So it kind of did a little, and it doesn't sound like it was intentional to this degree, but it made these kids like dependent.
It backfired just a little bit. Yeah. For some.
Well, and I that's not necessarily the fault of the showmakers,
right?
But like if you pitch it like you have to watch this before you go to bed, and then one day it's not there anymore, like it would be the same when it gets canceled.
Right.
Like it's suddenly gone. It's like, well, we don't have any more In the Night Garden, and it's like, well, yeah, it's over.
Yeah.
You need to find other ways to fall asleep.
It did win a BAFTA in 2007 for Best Children's Live Action Series.
Cool.
It again won a BAFTA in 2008 for Best Preschool Live Action Series. And it was nominated for a BAFTA in 2009 for the same award. So, that's it. That's In the Night Garden. So, I just want to say, I know that I ragged on Teletubbies a lot that one time. The good thing about Teletubbies is that it shows a lot of diversity and friendship between people that are different from you and all that. And I love that about it. I don't like the show Teletubbies, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I just don't care for the type of kids show that it is. I don't like the costume puppetry look of things. But if I was to choose between Teletubbies and In the Night Garden, I would actually say In the Night Garden is more palatable for those people that are like me that don't care for that type of technology and style. But anyway, I do appreciate everybody, or, when somebody, gives us feedback or something like that, so that I know. Now I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, it's the reason we ask for your feedback at the end of the show. Like we want to hear when people have a difference of opinion with us, because that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's totally normal for our taste in show to differ from other people's tastes in shows, and we are telling you shows that we would prefer to watch mainly. Like we give you our feedback on whether we would like certain things for Cora to watch, but really our premise is basically, do we enjoy them? And we try to give the reasons why. And I think sometimes that comes across, our show comes across as like a hard, not hard, but like an advice show. And we're not really giving advice. We're mostly giving you our review and our feelings about a thing.
Yeah.
And your opinion is going to vary based on your experience and your background. And that is, again, that's a good thing.
Right. Exactly. And there are a lot of things that we may talk about here that you're like, I love this show. My kid loves this show. And that's awesome. There are some shows that Cora watches that I know other parents would not want their kids to watch, like SpongeBob or something like that. It's just the style. It's just the style of, parenting, what the kid likes, because Cora's never really been into this kind of in costumes and puppetry type of show.
Right. And obviously tons of kids liked it because there was a freaking write-in campaign to have it put back in the time slot it was at because it was a gigantic hit. So obviously that we can't be quote right about whether or not it's a good show because that's a matter of taste.
Yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to clear that up really quickly and just let y'all know that when I come down on a TV show, it's not that it's because it's a bad show for kids. It's just that I don't like it. Yeah. And Natalie doesn't like it. Yeah. And you can take that or leave that.
and we'll tell you if it's a bad show for kids.
Oh, for sure. We will tell you if it is definitely not suitable for them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, cool.
Well, this has been another episode of Not Suitable for Adults. You can reach out to us with your feelings and opinions and all of that on the show. And we want you to by email. That's notforadultscast@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Twitter at notforadultscast. And that's always NOT, number 4, adultscast. We recently passed a milestone over there. We haven't talked about milestones much lately on our show. But we passed 1,500 followers, I think last week. And we're getting a lot more lately. And that is awesome. We thank you all. We hope that some of those followers are also new listeners. So if you're a new listener, we welcome you. And we hope that you'll go back and listen to the rest of them if you haven't already.
And if you guys have friends that have kids and, kids are going to be home from school some and everything now that the school year started. Tell them to, hey.
Tune in.
You can hear about some of the shows that we find worth your time during the day.
Yeah, for sure. And you can do that by going out and giving us a rating and review. So that helps other people know who are just searching for a podcast that this is something that they might enjoy, and then that will give them some advice that maybe will be pertinent to them. So that's all that. We've been talking about these shows, and why are you laughing?
I don't know. Here comes the wrap up.
Yeah, we gotta wrap it up. But we talk about these shows, and just like we've been talking about, we're gonna tell you what we like. And sometimes you might want to take that as advice. Sometimes you might want to say, no, I don't think that's a good one. Just remember that no matter even if we tell you something, you're still the boss.
So watch whatever you want.
Okay, bye.
Bye.